The rain fell in sheets that October evening, turning the Atlanta streets into rivers of rushing water. Most people had already found shelter, but Sarah Mitchell stood at the bus stop with her 6-month-old daughter pressed against her chest, wrapped in the only dry blanket she had left. Her arms ached from holding little Emma for the past 2 hours, but she refused to let go. The baby was all she had in this world, and she would protect her with every breath in her body. Sarah's shoes were falling apart, water seeping through the holes with each step she took to keep her legs from going numb. Her thin jacket did nothing against the cold, but she had positioned it over Emma's head to create a small shield from the relentless rain. The baby whimpered softly, and Sarah whispered words of comfort she barely believed herself. 3 months ago, she had a home, a job at a diner, and enough money to keep them both fed. Then her landlord sold the building, her hours got cut, and everything crumbled like a house of cards in a storm. She had been staying at a women's shelter across town, but they closed at 9, and the last bus had broken down 20 minutes into the route. The driver said another would come in an hour, maybe 2. But Sarah knew better than to count on maybes. She had learned that the hard way. So she stood there in the rain, swaying gently to keep Emma calm, singing a lullaby her own mother had sung to her a lifetime ago. A pair of headlights cut through the darkness, and Sarah instinctively turned away. She had learned to make herself invisible, to avoid eye contact, to never ask for what she needed. But the car slowed down, and she heard the window rolling down. Her heart pounded. She had heard stories about what could happen to desperate women alone at night. David Chen sat in his Mercedes, gripping the steering wheel as he watched the young woman turn away from his car. He had been driving home from another 16-hour day at his tech company, thinking about quarterly reports and investor meetings, when his headlights caught the image of a mother holding her baby in the pouring rain. Something in his chest cracked open. He had passed countless people on street corners before, always telling himself he donated to charities and that was enough. But tonight, looking at that mother's protective stance and the tiny bundle in her arms, he could not drive away. He opened his door and stepped into the rain without even grabbing his umbrella. The cold water soaked through his expensive suit in seconds, but he barely noticed. He approached slowly, keeping his distance, his hands visible. Sarah's body tensed as the man walked toward her. She held Emma tighter, ready to run even though she had nowhere to go. David stopped several feet away and raised his voice just enough to be heard over the rain. His words came out softer than he intended. He asked if she and her baby needed help, somewhere warm to wait, maybe a ride somewhere safe. Sarah looked at him for the first time, really looked at him. She saw kindness in his eyes, but she had been fooled before. Trust was a luxury she could no longer afford. She shook her head and said the bus would come soon, that they were fine, thank you anyway. But Emma chose that moment to cry, a sharp wail that cut through the night air. Sarah bounced her gently, but the baby was cold and hungry and tired of being strong. Sarah's voice cracked as she tried to soothe her daughter, and David saw tears mixing with the rain on her face. He did something then that surprised even himself. He pulled out his phone and called his assistant, putting the call on speaker so Sarah could hear everything. He asked Patricia to contact the Hilton downtown and book a room under his company account, a suite with a crib if possible, and to have them prepare some formula and baby supplies. He said it was an emergency and that he would cover all costs personally. Then he held the phone out so Sarah could see he had actually made the call. Sarah stared at him, her mind racing. This could be a trap, a trick, something worse than standing in the rain. But Emma cried harder, and Sarah felt her own strength failing. She thought about her daughter's future, about the choice between fear and hope, and she made a decision that terrified her. She asked him why he was doing this, what he wanted in return. David's answer was simple and honest. He said he did not want anything except to know that a baby was warm and safe tonight. He told her his own daughter was grown now, living in California, and he remembered what it felt like to hold something so precious and fragile. He said he would drop them at the hotel, pay for 3 nights, and leave them alone. No strings, no expectations, just one human being helping another. Something in his voice broke through Sarah's defenses. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe it was desperation, or maybe it was the first genuine kindness she had encountered in months. She nodded slowly and let him guide her to his car. The drive to the hotel was quiet except for Emma's fading whimpers. David kept the heat on high and handed Sarah a bottle of water from his cup holder. He did not ask questions or make her explain herself. He just drove and occasionally glanced in the rearview mirror to make sure they were okay. At the hotel, the manager was waiting with a key card, baby formula. diapers, and a warm meal. David walked them to the elevator, handed Sarah an envelope with $500 in cash, and told her to use it for whatever she and Emma needed. He gave her his business card and said if she wanted help finding a job or resources in the morning, she could call his assistant. Then he turned to leave. Sarah called after him, her voice breaking. She asked him why, really why, he had stopped for them. David paused and turned back, his eyes glistening with emotion he rarely showed. He told her that 5 years ago, his company had nearly gone bankrupt. He had been days away from losing everything, and a stranger had given him a loan with no collateral, just faith that David would pay it forward someday. That stranger had changed his life, and David had spent years looking for the right moment to honor that gift. Tonight, seeing Sarah and Emma in the rain, he finally understood what paying it forward really meant. Sarah spent that night in a warm bed with her baby safe beside her. She cried tears of relief and gratitude that she had been holding back for months. The next morning, she called the number on David's card, and Patricia connected her with a job placement program that specialized in helping single mothers. Within 2 weeks, Sarah had a position at a nonprofit that provided childcare and flexible hours. Within 6 months, she had saved enough for a small apartment. But the story did not end there. Sarah started volunteering at the same women's shelter where she had stayed, helping other mothers find resources and hope. She told them about the rainy night when a stranger stopped his car and changed everything, not just by giving her money, but by seeing her as a human being worthy of kindness. David continued running his company, but something had shifted in him that night. He started a foundation that provided emergency assistance to families in crisis. No questions asked, no bureaucracy, just immediate help when people needed it most. He named it Emma's Promise, after the baby who had reminded him what really mattered. Years later, Sarah would receive a college scholarship for Emma from an anonymous donor. She knew exactly who it was from, but when she called to thank him, David simply said that Emma's future was her mother's gift to the world, and he was honored to be a small part of it. The rain falls on everyone, but kindness can be an umbrella big enough to cover us all. Sometimes it takes just one person to stop, to see, to care, and to act. That one moment of compassion can ripple out in ways we never imagine, changing not just one life but entire communities. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to Kindify Stories. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that goodness still exists in this world, that strangers can become angels, and that one act of kindness can change everything. Drop a comment telling us about a time someone showed you unexpected compassion, or a time you were able to help someone else. Your story might inspire someone watching right now to be the change someone desperately needs. Remember, we all have the power to stop the car, to step into the rain, to reach out a hand. The question is not whether we can make a difference, but whether we will choose to try. Thank you for watching, and never forget that kindness is the most powerful force in the universe. See you in the next story.